Hello, good afternoon. This is James Chubb in Emerson, and we're looking forward to our webinar today. We're going to talk about the listing types feature. So, yeah, let's get started. So the listing types are actually one of the most important features of a highly functioning directory. And the reason is content these days has almost become a commodity, and so you can find a business name, address, etc. anywhere. But what is really important is having the deep information about the listing. All of, anything that somebody could possibly be interested in. And so the listing types feature is important because what it does is allows you to create custom fields for the listing. And so an example would be a hotel might have an item for valet parking or pool or amenities or another text section about the history. All of these things together can give you much more depth to the information that you're providing the end user, and they will drive more search traffic because of that. So we're going to show you, I guess, quickly how to set up your listing types, and then also talk about the ways that you would want to do them, because they are different than categories. Listing types. Okay, we're going to start our screen share here, and then we will pull up the site manager. Okay, can everybody see the screen? If somebody can just pop into the chat box if the screen is pulling up okay. I think it's working okay. Yep. Okay, great. So we're in the site manager here. This is our demo, but it's the same for your site. If your site manager looks different, you may want to request an upgrade. But I think all of you should have this screen here. So the listing types basically are down here under the content, and then you go down to listing types, and then you'll see our demo has it pre-filled with a couple sites that are more sort of yellow page type items. Auto parts suppliers, I guess somebody was messing with the demo and added this one here. Dentist, doctor, golf course, hotel, real estate, restaurant, etc. And before I get into sort of editing the listing types, I wanted to talk about the difference between categories and listing types, and why you would use those slightly different. So the listing type is really the template of the data. Which fields it has, and then the category is sort of a class, a separate classification. And so you need to think about your taxonomy and how everything's going to be structured, and then what different fields do you want in different listing types. Something to look at is like restaurants, for example. You probably want to have a restaurant type if you're doing a restaurant food and dining kind of thing. And the difference there would be, underneath restaurants, you probably have different types of restaurants, from sushi to Italian, French, etc. But then in the restaurant types, you just have one type for all of those subtypes. So you probably wouldn't set up a listing type for Thai restaurant or for sushi restaurant, but it's a good idea for the higher level. In some categories, you don't even need to necessarily do it, like auto parts supplier. Maybe you do want to do it for auto parts supplier, but maybe not. Maybe you just want to have one type for retail business or something along those lines. Okay, so let's go here, and I think I can add. You can certainly add a new type, but let me edit the restaurant type, because I think it's a great example that'll give pretty good overview of how this works and what it's used for. So one feature with the type is that you can bind it with a category, and this is really important. So basically, if somebody selects food and dining for the category they're listing, it will show the fields for the restaurant type for that category. You can have multiple categories for the type. So for retail, if you have a listing type for like retail, you could have auto parts suppliers, clothing stores, et cetera for that. Yeah. So and then the subcategories as well will work if you put the top level category here for that. We have an enabled disabled status that you can work on it. And this feature here is really great too, which is an additional price. So basically what it allows you to do is set a base price for the listings, and then if they're in certain highly valued types, you can charge more money for them. And that's great. Like say you have a hotel type, you may want to charge hotels more than bakeries, that kind of thing. So you can use this here to do that and kind of charge extra money on top of the listing. And it just adds it on when you go to the checkout. And then there's common fields here, and really what these are is to override the label. So on the field where an advertiser enters listing title, instead of saying listing title, it'll say restaurant name if you put something in here. We also have the address line 1 and address line 2, and you can override those. Most people don't, and they just leave them there. The tooltip is a feature where basically if you put your mouse over the field, it does a little pop-up to explain what the field is. So you can put in a tooltip. Most people leave these blank for these ones, but they may use them for these ones here below. And the feature is pretty simple, and basically you can add in additional fields of various types here. There's checkbox fields. You can add things like, does it have parking, does it have live entertainment, are reservations accepted, wheelchair accessible, etc. If you want to add more, you just go and then you can, let me just see here. I think you can do extra drop-down fields, required. If you hit enter at the bottom, it'll add more fields to it, so you can add as many as you want there. I think there is some limit, but I'm not sure what it is. And then, so a drop-down field is something like a cuisine, and this, when a listing owner adds it, they're going to select from one of the items that's available that you pre-fill. So they can't just type in whatever they want for cuisine. They would have a drop-down, and then they select from the available options here. I don't know that cuisine may be a good idea to put in, but maybe not. I mean, this is an example where probably you wouldn't have this because there's already a category that has cuisine in it. There's probably a subcategory under restaurants that says what type of cuisine it is. But that's really up to you how you structure it, and it'll be listed out. Basically, it just gets listed here. And then you can put in a tooltip for these as well, and then you can make it required if somebody has to fill it in or not. And if they don't fill it in, it won't show up on the front. Extra text fields, these are great. These are just single line fields that you can put in information, dining style, payment options, if there's a name of an executive chef, price, etc. You can put these in. And then there's extra short description fields as well. Again, if you want to have more to any of these, you just hit enter and it drops out more. And then there's extra long description fields. So I think a text field is just like one line, short description field is a couple lines, and then long description you can put in a longer paragraph of information. And these are great, so like if you want to put in history, something like that. One other thing that's really great to put in these is awards. If you put in awards, they can list out whatever awards they've won or those types of things in there. And then you save it. And then after you save it here, it comes back and it updates it or it adds it. If you add it, it's just the same thing here. The fields are empty, and then you can go in and add more. And then after it's saved, so the type is in there, and then when somebody is adding a new listing, what happens here is they add a listing, and the fields are available for all the levels. So then you could go in and select a restaurant and go through here, and then you see how here it says restaurant name instead of listing title. And there is a listing type here and categories. So if they pick the listing type of restaurant, the categories available, only food and dining and what is available for that. So the stuff below food and dining, so they can't pick the other categories. They can't select a golf course if the type is restaurant. That's how that works. And then yeah, here are all the fields for the listing, keywords for search, and then here's all the additional field information that comes in here. You see parking, live entertainment, restaurants, reservations accepted, wheelchair accessible. We put in cuisine type again, but you may or may not use that. You can, it's a drop-down field. Payment options, Visa, MasterCard, chef's name, price, awards, and history. Yeah, and so then basically they go through and save the listing, and then after the listing is saved, on the front it'll display those extra fields. I think typically the extra fields aren't added into the keyword search. That is a very easy tweak if we need to do that for SEO, but I think we don't do that just to keep the search fairly clean from false positives by default. But if that's something you need to do, just talk to your account manager about that as far as that goes. And yeah, let me see. Does anybody have any questions on this feature? And the thing I want to mention is it's really great to do these and put these fields in. Because what happens is if you have this in-depth information about whether they have valet parking, all of the features, all of the amenities, etc., the directory is just a lot more useful, and Google recognizes that as well as your end users also recognize it. So yeah, so I guess that's the listing types. I mean, that's the general feature, and the reason we wanted to do a webinar, it's a pretty straightforward, simple feature. The real reason we want to do a webinar is to promote people to actually use it, because it is something that we find people aren't using quite enough of, and then they're wondering, oh, my search traffic isn't quite as good as I wished it was, etc. Okay, we're back on. Sorry about that. We had a little bit of an issue there, the screen share. Yeah, we're back on. We'll show you what it looks like on the front now. So I think we have a number of listings in here, right? That have, let's see, Taiyu. I think we have the restaurant category for Taiyu. So I'll show you what it looks like. So here are the additional options on the front. They just are kind of laid out here. For that, this listing, I guess, doesn't have all the extra stuff filled in, but if it did, they would be laid out there. And this is also one thing: if you need fields that aren't in here, or you need, some stuff, please talk to your account manager. It's usually very, very easy for us to do to, change the layout a little bit or tweak it. Let me see. I know we have some other ones in here that I can show you on the front. What it looks like. Taco House. Here's one. Let me check out A&M Pizza. That one looks like it doesn't have the extra fields. That one has a video there. Okay. And extra fields for events. That's actually a feature we don't have at this point, but we're working on it, Doug. If you want to let me know what fields you want to add to the events, we can see. We're actually working on overhauling this this part of the system right now, and so certainly any feedback on it is welcome. What we're doing to it is making it so that you can put the fields where you want and change the layout for it, and so we're planning on doing that as well. Right now, often what people do is you can put just the information into the listing. Yeah, that's exactly right. So this allows us to customize your listing types exactly and put whatever fields you want into them. Events, parking, payment options, etc. Okay, very similar stuff. It sounds like, Doug, to the listing. So yeah, we're hoping to have that in pretty soon here for that. So yeah, it's a super simple feature, and yeah, I hope everybody can take a look at it and start using it. The additional price thing is great to segment your audience, segment your customer base in terms of charging more money for the segments that are more valuable, and the SEO, the SEO value, just having all that extra information on there is great. So, okay. Yeah, I guess that's about it. A very quick one this week. If anybody has any questions, as always, did we answer everything or no? The last one. Oh, so for instance, one of the default options is fax number, so I can make a listing type that doesn't include that. Yes, I think actually we took out fax number from the latest version of stuff. It doesn't have fax, and nobody's using fax anymore. When we started, faxes was still a big thing. Yeah, so a lot of the fields you can take out. There are some default parts of the listing that are not removable yet, but we are working on that. And the next release is actually going to have a very flexible listing that has a default business listing with all the stuff, but you can add and remove it down to just a title basically if you want to really decide what fields you want to show on there. So we're working on the flexibility and all that for it. Okay, anything else? And what do we have up for next week? We have another, let's check what we got on next week for the webinar. Everybody, and as always, feel free to send me an email. My name is James Chubb, james.chubb@eDirectory.com, or you can send them or send an email as well if you have any questions. Oh yes, next week we have a great webinar I'm actually looking forward to, which is running a sales team. So we're going to talk about all sorts of stuff related to the sales team. Everything from commission structures to hiring to training programs to what to expect, what sound you might want to use or not use, whether you send people to the streets or do telesales, all sorts of stuff that'll just kind of be based. It'll be sort of a free flow discussion based on some of the experience I've had working with our customers over the last number of years. So certainly a little bit more meeting next week, and if you have the time, certainly come back and see us. Okay, that's it. Okay, that's it. Thanks a lot. Thanks for coming.